Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Beyond the Horizon. I am very excited for the conversation that we're about to get into. I have Miss Lindsey Heppner, creative director, and you may know her if you follow design on social media, having built an agency called Vamped for over a decade now. But thank you for coming in and joining me.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. How you been?
I've been good.
It's been a long time.
Yes.
Those of you who don't know, we went to fashion design school at OCC together.
Oh my gosh.
Circa 2008?
Don't age me right now. I don't know when, actually. It was long enough to not remember.
Yeah, it has been a minute. You know who's coming on here in like 2 weeks?
Who?
Is
Shush.
She wrote
really?
a book. Yeah, she wrote a book. She gave me the book, and she's going to come on here and chat. That's our old director of the fashion department there.
Interesting. Yeah. Oh my gosh, amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Well, anyway, what have you been up to? What is taking up all your time? And you know, I know if you follow her on social media, she's a lady of many hobbies.
Yes.
Right? Is that saying it right?
I am. I actually had to take a hobby off because I got hit in the face by a softball, which I did talk about on my socials, and I almost lost my eye. So,
it was that bad?
Yeah, it was that bad, but peptides do actually work, so you can't tell anymore.
Well, we will get into the peptides for sure. No, you can't tell at all.
Yeah.
Dang. So are you going for the Olympics are in 2028? Will you be going for softball?
No, I actually denied my team coming back because I felt like God was like, this is your sign to not come back.
Yeah, black eyes and busted orbitals are no good.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
Well, so I introduced and said, you've been working on, we went to fashion school together. It's been quite some time since we've been this close and had a conversation.
Yeah.
Where did that take you? Where did you go, and like what are things all about now?
You know, it's interesting. When I was in school with you, I went to Long Beach University, and I kind of was never there. I was just like creating stuff at school just so I could build Vamped at that time. So the director of Long Beach knew I was doing a full-blown agency at the same time. So I kind of wasn't at school. So I would just turn in my projects and they would, thumbs me up. And then I was just focused on building that agency at that time because social media was not really a thing yet, but I really saw an opportunity there.
Yeah.
And do you remember when we would take photos on Instagram of just like random things, just like a corner, and you'd be like, that's creative, and there was nothing really about it. It was just a platform.
And you'd spend 5 minutes trying to figure out which filter you would use because it had all the
horrible,
borders
filters
that were on there and stuff.
Yeah. And at that time, I was asked to manage a model, a really big model from Australia, and we started getting all these leads in her email, and I was like, oh my gosh, people are wanting to pay for her to post stuff. So then it just like became this snowball effect for me. I was like, I'm going to reach out to every single person that's like getting engagement and high following and ask them to manage them. So that's kind of how I started. I was just reaching out to brands, matchmaking them with and the word influencer wasn't even a word yet. Yeah. So I was like, these people.
Right. Person with other followers and lots of likes.
Yeah. So I was just accumulating so many people at the time and making money off of that with these creators. And then I developed this idea to take all these people on trips and create content, and no one wanted to hire us. It was like such a weird opportunity I was building.
So the different influencers, you brought them together.
Yes.
You'd go on a content creation trip.
Yes.
Essentially. Wow.
Yeah. So we were the first to do that. So we like trailblazed that whole idea. And then we were, we had a few clients like Bumble, San Lorenzo Bikinis, all like took a chance on us. And we did our first trip, which was so crazy because we had like 15 influencers who are all very massive right now. But back then, like we were all just kind of like taking this risk of like, okay, are we going to do this? And we pulled it off. And then we were overnight internationally known because of the fact that no one was doing something like that.
Right.
So we had people like companies like Boohoo and PacSun and Revolve, all these companies started creating these ideas through like this influencer trip,
Right.
and asking us how to do it and everything. And so
Where'd you go?
our first one was Hawaii. Okay. And then I ended up doing like, I think 22 tours.
Oh, dang.
With all different types of celebrities. We were just, that was our thing for a second there. And we were known for that. And then there was all these other agencies building influencer trips off of our kind of our footprint. But we were doing so many things behind the scenes because everyone was like, how do you make money off of these things? And I'm like, well, I have a full blown agency behind the scenes. We were doing content creation, brand identity, collaborations, you know, and our roster was like 50 celebrity influencers. Like I think at one point I was managing everyone.
Yeah.
So and even if it was for a day, I managed them, you know, on some type of project. So we were very well known in the space. Definitely OG agency for social media. And yeah, my lifestyle was pretty insane. Our partnerships were like with the highest hotels in the world. We were partnering with like just SLS, W Hotel,
Making
and then
content for them or doing the trips there, all of it?
Doing the trips, making content, lifestyle shots, and then partnering also with high-end brands. I've worked with over probably, I want to say 200 to 300 different types of brands, whether it's like activations, making their content, creating strategy, you name it. I've done it for the last 12 years. Yeah.
So let's focus on this for a minute, because I think a lot of people would be intimidated by like a lot of things you're saying, managing celebrities, reaching out to these people. Now, social media is obviously a lot more flooded today than it was then. Like the DMs are a little harder to get through to someone than they might have been back then. But like, I don't know if anybody is watching, not necessarily wanting to build an agency or maybe that, but in the world of trying to grow an idea into a business, into something that's a brand that people follow and like it starts to grow, there's all these barriers, I think, of fear.
Of entry?
Well, the barrier of entry, but then there's this barrier of willingness to try too.
Yeah.
How was that? Was it scary reaching out to these people, or did you get rejected, or was it easy?
Well, I got into a really bad car accident where I almost lost my life, like right before I started the agency and went full force on it. And I think when you have a near-death experience, you almost don't fear anything. I remember after almost dying, I was like, I am invincible right now. I can do whatever. Because when you think that you're going to lose everything in a split second, you have nothing to lose now, right? And that was my first time experiencing what it feels like to be in the presence of God. I just remember this really bright light when I woke up from my car accident and just felt so loved. And I know that's God. There's no other way to describe the feeling I had when I woke up. And after that,
was this in the hospital? Like you were out for a while?
No, I was in the middle of the street bleeding. Oh. Yeah.
So you were, were you in a car?
I was in a car. Yeah.
And then you got out of the car. How did this, give me some more detail.
So what had happened was it was the day after Christmas. I was super depressed. I had fallen out of a relationship with a guy who I thought was going to be my husband at that time. And I was depressed for a year. And I almost like wanted this to happen. I remember the streets, the day after Christmas, no one's on the streets, right? And I went to the gym super early. It was around 5 or 6 a.m. And it was right by my house. I was driving home, and this car had like creeped into the intersection from afar. I was in a green light. They were on a red light, but it looked possibly they were on their phone and they didn't know they were creeping into the intersection. And I just didn't brake. I just kind of closed my eyes and was like, God, just take me right now. And I went into the car and I T-boned him, and I woke up going into an emergency car from the street.
Wow.
So I know God saved me and I was made to be here for so much more. And even too, I know we're going to talk about it, but where I'm at right now is proof of just his love for me to be here still.
How fast were you going?
Like 70. It was crazy. Dang. I don't even, like when they were cutting off my clothes at the hospital, they were like, I don't even know how you're alive right now. Wow. That's how bad it was.
How's the other car?
And so it was like an Escalade, and I had hit a doctor. Okay. So very thankful of that, because of the fact that, it was an insured person,
right?
And they wanted to do surgery on my back, and I was like, no, I'm going to figure it out, and because they said I probably would never be able to work out again, and that's another testament to God. I mean, the impossible can be possible. I didn't do surgery. I, healed myself naturally, and if anyone follows me on Instagram, I do
what
crazy
was the damage that you healed?
So I messed up my C4, my C5 on my neck. And then I totally dislocated my, what is this? Your clavicle?
Like your collarbone?
Yeah, my collarbone. And then my entire body, my nervous system, my nerves were, I don't even know what it's called, but they were on fire for like 4 months. So like they thought the nerve damage was all from my back. So they wanted to do surgery on me, and I was like, I don't feel called to do that. I want to see if I can fix myself.
This is in the hospital right after, like emergency style surgery they wanted to do? Okay.
I was in the hospital. They waited a month, and they're like, hey, because your nerve damage is still going, we might have to do surgery on you. And I was like,
was that like a completely like a gut feeling? You're like, no way? Or did you have to think about it and contemplate?
Oh, I'm so intuitive with my body. It was a complete no.
Okay.
I feel like our intuition, there's a reason why it goes off. And to me, I feel like that's very much the Holy Spirit. And we, obviously we have free will. So you can either listen to that or not. And I'm an obedient person, so I like to listen to my intuition.
Right.
Yeah.
At the time back then, is it safe to say that you didn't look at it then as like, this is the Holy Spirit telling me this? You were just like, had a gut feeling?
Yeah. I mean, I'm such a different person now. I see intuition as obedience to God. Before it was like, this feels off. This feels like someone's trying to make money. Yeah.
So take me back to you had this accident, and then this made you feel like you're empowered and you're indestructible or invincible, right?
Yeah.
And so the scary things that somebody might interpret as scary weren't scary to you, because you're like, if I've gone through this, what's a phone call, a DM, a text, or whatever?
I've always been very driven, and nothing, I mean, I think after that, nothing scared me, but I've always been pretty on my own raft. I would say I'm a black sheep for sure. I don't jump because everyone jumps. I like think about things and being like, maybe I want to go this way. And with that, I think a lot of people listen to me because I'm not, I would say I don't like following a lot. I like to lead, and my leadership, I feel is the reason why a lot of things have gotten done in my life.
Right.
Yeah.
What's going on, everyone? Today's episode was brought to you by Policy Engineer Insurance Solutions, a company that my brother and I own and are passionate about helping people with what we call the stable table planning, health, wealth, and legacy planning to give you a stable, predictable retirement. If you want to know more about how we do what we do and what areas we can serve you in, visit policyengineer.com. So talk to me a little bit about managing all these celebrities. Like how loaded question here, but
Yeah.
so I think the average person looks at a celebrity through the lens they see them, whether it be red carpets or social media, things like that. And there's a lot of like, I wish I could live that life. And there's a lot of like, oh, they have it so easy because they're a celebrity and stuff.
Yeah.
So I want to kind of touch on both of those. Getting exposure to that, is the life that they're living really that great that when people look at it, it's like, yeah, you should want to aspire to live like this, or is it not, or is it a bag of mixed?
Well, I think what was really good about how I approached it is, one, I didn't want that life. And two, I didn't ever look at them as better than me. And I think that's a lot of why people get maybe nervous or feel like it can't be possible that they can reach out to them, or, you know, because you put this idolizing standard on someone who is seen as important, right? And for me, I didn't realize that I've been around celebrities my whole life. My mom was one. At some level, she was a singer. She you know, was in Elvis movies. She was with the Carpenters, was managed by the Rolling Stones manager. So I kind of grew up in this environment where they're just normal people. And my mom has always normalized that. And so when I got into this industry, I was like, how did I, you know, you always wonder how you get into things, but then it's like the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, right?
Right.
But I've never looked at people as like more important than others. My mom has always told me, treat everyone with kindness and treat everyone equally, that, you know, love them for the way that they respect you and trust you and loyalty versus their accolades. So it wasn't very hard for me to get along with celebrities and kind of like psychoanalyze like how to engage with them, because I never praised them. I always looked at them like, hey, like you should be like, you should want to work with me because I know how to help you. So it was kind of a reverse psychology. I was never begging for people to work for me. I was showing them an opportunity.
Right.
And I've always been an entrepreneur. I had my first business when I was like, 18. So designing swim and I was in boutiques, and so I just always had this entrepreneur mind. And then when it came to this space, I was like, these people need me. You know?
Yeah, you knew your value that you were bringing.
It was more like they need me and we can do a partnership together. And so it kind of like snowballed to that. And so I wasn't really nervous. I mean, I remember reaching out to really big brands and they're like, who do you think you are? You know?
Yeah.
And I didn't care. I was like, their no's actually helped me prove to them later that you're going to be reaching out to me asking for me. And that's what was happening. After a while, brands were reaching out to me going, how do we place our stuff with the people you know? How do we get involved in these, you know, high level events? And so it was turning around, and that was the excitement about it. I was like, I will show you that you're going to need me soon.
That full circle moment's got to feel pretty good.
Oh, I mean, the amount of people that I've worked with and the amount of brands that I've done, my younger self would have never even dreamed of what I've accomplished, you know? So yeah, it's been a whirlwind for sure.
Would you say a lot of what you accomplished happened by design, by you setting targets and saying this is going to happen, and now you've painted this picture you had in your head?
Yeah.
All of it was kind of thought out.
I wouldn't tell people what I wanted to do. I know that if I set my mind to something, I was going to do it. And then it was almost fun trying to get higher on the mountain because I was doing so many things. I was like, okay, I accomplished that. What can I accomplish next? And it seemed like nothing was able to get in my way. And that's when I knew I had a gift for creative directing. I had a gift for just business and building businesses. And yeah, I always like, you know, I was my best cheerleader.
Right.
So,
well,
and that's important.
It is, for sure.
I think that's really important.
I mean, just in the way you say things, like I have 3 kids and I forget where I heard it, but rather than telling them you're proud of them, telling them they should be proud of themselves.
Yeah.
And that was a conscious flip that I made. And I was like, you know what? That's great. So I'll still tell them I'm proud of them, but I'm like, hey, that was amazing. You should be proud of yourself. Are you proud of yourself?
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I am. And getting this instillment that it is, yeah, I can be happy or proud that I did that and go chase that again.
Yeah. I had 2 different types of parents. My mom was I could never do any wrong. And then my dad was just never, I think this is what instilled in me for my whole life is he was like, you're capable of doing anything. So words are very powerful. And even if you don't think they are. Subconsciously, that is what marketing is.
Right.
Is visual and dialect that stimulates your brain subconsciously, consciously, to create an emotional awareness, even when you don't know. And there was a study, which was, I'll show you this later, but there was a study on YouTube with 4 influencers. I know a couple of them on there, and they did this whole like unconscious, subconscious marketing piece on them. And they knew at the end that they would take this type of picture, and they didn't know that they would. But at the end of it, all of them took the same photo. And it was because of how they directed the whole time of how they were going to integrate the marketing, right? But they didn't know what was going on.
Right.
And I think that's what's really interesting about marketing is people think they're not being consumed by it and being like, oh, like they can't, you know. But everything you choose in your daily activities was marketed to you. And if you think what you're wearing is not by chance, it is definitely on purpose. Even if you don't think that you have any consumption, like at any way, everything, even just how you design this and stuff was from little pieces of moments and environment that you've enjoyed or something stimulates you about each color.
Right.
And so when I go into creating a campaign and people are like, that color doesn't matter, like, why are you caring about it so much? You have no idea what this color means to someone. Even McDonald's creatively chose yellow and red for a reason, because you get hungry. Red makes you hungry. There's so much breakdown in it. So when I see something, I know every single detail of it.
It's interesting to know what you're thinking about the whole room when you walk in.
Totally. Exactly.
So, where's this line of like being conscious of things in design and like majoring in the minors? You know, like over taking too much time on something that maybe isn't gonna matter. Do you struggle with that ever, or do you know when to like stop?
Well, I mean, just by coming in here, you probably could see how I am. That is the line between good and great for any type of business.
The obsession in the details.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Because the reason why my clients always came back to me is because I wanted everything to be great, not just good. And even with the creatives I work with, and it was so cute the other day, I just love this kid. He is going to be just an insane editor. And he already is. We hopped on a call, and I always pre-edit anything for my client, even though that's not part of the process when it comes to editing. Like a client has to like decide what they want to edit. And it's because I want every client to never have to edit. That's my whole goal. And the editor called me and was like, I'm so thankful that you care that much. Even though it's more work for me, I know that you care more than I can see. And it's making him greater, right? Because I care about the detail that behind the scenes, really no client wants to edit. They don't want to go, they hired you to do that. Even though it's part of the contract that they edit and like choose what they want edited. But for me, I want to give someone a masterpiece that they can use forever. That's my importance of like my creative directing is I see some of my clients, they still use my content 7 years later.
Wow.
And it's because I cared so much day one that I want them to be able to like still look back at that and go, that's still my favorite piece of content.
So I'm going to butcher this probably, but in Steve Jobs' autobiography, he talks about designing things in a way that like they look like they were intentional.
Yeah.
And all the way to the degree of if you take it apart. So like Apple products, I'm assuming they still follow this, but when he was in charge, that they were designed on the inside to look and feel and evoke a certain emotion. Like if you took it apart, but like who's taking their iPhone apart or their Apple computer apart? Like not really. But for the few people who would take it apart, and I think he related it back to a story of making a fence or something where there was going to be two sides to it. And his dad told him that, you need to do this inside part, right? And it was like, no one's going to see it because we're going to cover up the other side. Yeah. But if one person takes it apart and sees it, then they'll see it and they'll know that it was all intentional. It was done right. And ever since I heard that, it's always stuck with me that it's like, no, it might be seen from all these different ways and it should be looked like it's put together. Yeah. Even though that is easier said than done sometimes, because sometimes you just want to be done with something and the part people don't see. But
and that's what makes the difference between great and good, right? Apple is something that someone will always choose over any other product, even though it's so simple, the simplicity of it, but the intricacy and the design and the intentional, you can tell that the product was designed intentionally. And I think that's really what's important when it comes to being in a position that I am. There's so many creative directors. There's so many people that do marketing and how are you going to stand out from them, right? Like how do you show up? And for me, I want to show up how I would want someone to show up for me. And that, filters out into everything in my life, the way I show up for my friends, the way I show up, as a girlfriend or the way I show up in business. It's all really important and valuable to me that, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to give it my all.
Yeah. I think not enough people take that, do unto others as you want them done to you.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's almost always quoted when it has to do with how you treat someone.
Yeah.
But it's so much more than, treat people the way you would want to be treated. But like you said, in business, in the product you deliver, in the work you're doing behind the scenes, in the answering emails on time, like all these different things are relevant to that same phrase.
Exactly. And I never understood how people would say it was okay to act differently in business versus being outside. You know how some people are they're more edgy and aggravated, and they have this like business persona, but outside they're kind. And I just feel that I've always wanted to be the same person everywhere. I don't want my business, or when I do business, to be different than how I treat someone outside of business, because most of my clients were because of how I treated them. We didn't even talk about business for the first intro meeting. I would talk about their life and about their family and who they are as a person. And when you got that real connection with someone, it's like, I'd rather give my money to this girl than someone who's trying to sell me the dream.
Right.
Because, you know, you have to work with someone for months when it comes to creative directing or influencer programs or anything that we were doing. We were working together for years. So if you don't even like enjoy working with this person, and you also see them as someone who's just taking your money, that to me is the problem, right? I always cared for my clients as if their business was my baby. Like, I cared so much about their baby being seen correctly.
Right.
And in this agency world, it's very like showy. And not every agency is like that. Like, I'm not going to be like, oh, we're all held to this standard. But I knew that a lot of people were so burned by agencies because they shared the dream. They couldn't deliver the dream. And so then marketing was like this big umbrella, like no matter what, you don't know how to do marketing, right? And that was also a problem. What I saw is like, okay, there's so many different cars, but we're all being said like we're the same automobile, right? And that was an issue a lot of times. I had to retrain the brain of a lot of my clients, saying, just because you got burned over here doesn't mean this is the same strategy. This is the same influencers. This is the same, you know, product you're going to get.
Right.
And I was always honest with them at first. I was like, I cannot guarantee you anything you're asking me.
Right.
And that's up to you. We are going to work together. We're a partnership. But at the end of the day, no one can guarantee you viral content. Viral content is something that goes viral and you don't even know it's going to go viral.
Right.
And so I had to educate a lot of clients, because you see from the outside, people think, oh, they have 1 million followers, they're going to be great. Or they have this, they're going to be great. And that's just not how social marketing really works.
Well, the question you asked me before we came online, right? You were like, hey, which interviews have gone the most? And some of the interviews that we've done that you would least expect have done better than ones where you're like, oh, this is going to hit for sure. And it's just crazy. It just like, it has a lot to do with things that you don't see till afterwards, and you look and go, oh man, we could have never predicted that. And it happened.
Exactly. It's also based on the emotional consumption at that moment, what people are consuming that they really need in their life. That's really what goes viral, is like, I had an emotional connection. I want to see this over and over and over and over and over.
Well, I mean, maybe there's a better true definition, but when I think of something going viral, it's like, how many multiples more people saw it than normally would have? Yeah. Right. So someone like The Rock posts something, or Kim Kardashian posts something, it's going to be seen by hundreds of thousands or millions of people because of their following. Yeah. For them to have something go viral in their eyes, it's got to have a lot more than if something goes viral for me. If I have something get hundreds of thousands of views, I'm like, this is crazy. Every post they make has hundreds of thousands of views. Yeah. So it's like kind of relevant also, right? Yeah,
that wouldn't be viral to them if it was just a normal engagement post. Something viral for them would be that, you know, the Sydney Sweeney, you know, the jeans campaign. Yeah, right. That was viral.
Well, it goes beyond social media. It's on the news. It's in print. It's like all over, right?
It's everything.
Yeah, that's a whole nother level.
Yeah. And we talked about this on another podcast with one of my clients. I mean, at a point, not now, because I feel like the stage of social media is at its like adult stage where, you know, everything has been done. But at a moment there was a time where you kind of didn't know what was going to happen. It was a wild, wild west. We didn't have so many analytics. Like you can predict things more a little bit now because we have so much more capability of understanding what's happening. But before, I mean, you would just look at someone and just guess what their consumer was or their demographic. You just had no idea, and you kind of had to throw money at the wall.
Right.
But that was also really fun, right? Just, I mean, probably not fun for people that had to spend a lot of money, but I think for me at that time it was fun because
it's fun when you get to spend a lot of their money.
That's
it, right?
No.
Kidding.
I'm very frugal about clients' money, but I definitely think in the Wild Wild West it was a lot more fun seeing things go viral that you didn't think would go viral. Now it's like you kind of can premeditate things.
Yeah.
Just by your audience and understanding.
So being an expert in marketing for all these years, I have two questions. One is, how do you differentiate marketing and advertising? Like, what's the difference there? And then I'll ask you my second question.
I mean, I'm not an advertiser. I think a lot of people think they're the same thing. But for me, when I think of marketing, there's more storytelling. There's more brand identity to marketing, and advertising. I just think of like that show where they talk about like doing these billboards and like
Mad Men.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, like that kind of stuff. Where it's more like print and. You know, I look at what I do in marketing as like more of an emotional connection.
Okay.
Where advertising is more like we need sales.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think mine's more brand awareness.
Okay.
Kind of
That makes sense.
Positioning.
I've always looked at them like advertising has more to do with making the transaction happen.
Exactly.
Like spending money
Yeah.
to get this in front of someone in hopes that there's a call to action that they'll execute on.
Yep.
And then marketing is a lot of messaging and outbound awareness and branding and storytelling. But it's the feeling you get for a long period of time. The ad pops up. It's like, oh, look, coupon, buy now, done, over with.
Yeah, exactly. To me, it's more transactional. Even too, like I kind of dump direct response into like advertising kind of bucket,
right? Where
marketing is pulling someone in a first touch point of an emotional connection. And I love that. That is my bread and butter. If I could story tell everything I do, and I try to with my platform, I just love inviting people in.
Well, you know, when you're a storyteller, when you post something, you're like, hey, I'm going to talk about this next week. I'm preparing to talk about it. That's a storyteller because like, you're putting it all together versus someone else just like blah, 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 like without designing it. Yeah. So my second question is, what are your thoughts on marketing and social media and all this stuff and AI? Like fake influencer, AI influencers and like these characters that are being built and you have Liquid Death, Olympics commercial right now is like an AI character and they're like exploiting it and all this.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts with that?
I understand AI can be a tool, but I think for our generation that is growing up in AI, it is a standard of beauty. It's a standard of perfectionism. And I think it can be very detrimental to our youth. Me and you grew up not having a phone. We grew up in reality. And when you grow up in AI, you have a standard for yourself. And it's a standard that can never be met because you are trying to mirror and non-existent like person, or not even a person, like a design. I follow a couple AI girls. I'm very curious about what this unravels. But basically, this standard of beauty, this standard of knowledge that they have, and the way that they talk, and there's just perfection. How do you compete with that as a human being, right? And we're making people believe that this is okay, that this is the next standard that you have to be, that you have to go get, your whole face done like this. Like, we've already established that filters have created that type of awareness for women and men, that you have to go redesign your face to look like this filter.
Yeah.
We've already done that.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
I don't understand. I mean, you just got me on a thought here. Like, when you see a picture and you're like, you clearly use one of those things to like squeeze you thinner or make you taller, because you can see the rest of the picture gets
it's
like
just
distorted. Yeah, it's weird. And I look at it and I'm like, it's one thing to put a filter on to make something look like sepia toned or change like the lighting and that stuff. It's a whole nother thing when you're actually like photoshopping yourself. Yeah. And I get it. I mean, magazine ads had Photoshop. Now it's in the hands of anyone and like a little app and you tap it. But it's just wild to me. I'm either like, if the photo's either happening or going up or it's not going up, I'm not going to edit and create and turn it into something. But I have witnessed and seen, and like there's multiple times my wife and I are like, that's not that person.
Well, the problem is you almost can't knock the creator, because they're only creating what people are engaging in, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're engaging in someone who's skinnier versus when they were heavier, that's the consumer educating the creator that we want more of that. We want you to warp your body. That's the problem, is that we are both adding to the problem, not and us talking about it is showing the engagement of what you're seeing, right?
Right. But at the same time, can I not see something and say it's more aesthetically naturally pleasing for whatever reason? If we're talking about people and bodies and looks and stuff, we all have our different attractions, right?
Yeah.
So I would say that somebody who is in shape, taking care of their body, working out, things like that, is usually going to be more attractive than that same person, frumpy, out of shape, not taking care of themselves to most eyes.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that I want them to Photoshop themselves to be that way, or that I even want them to change at all. But if they did change, they would be more attractive and probably get more engagement. We're just taking like the shortcut version is to digitally make yourself look a way that you're not. Yeah. Pre-technology, you'd have to get in the gym, diet, eat different, and then you would look different and you'd achieve this. Yeah. Then I know that. So I guess I'm thinking more from like a guy's standpoint. I know that on the female side, there are more things that they want to do that it's not just going to the gym. Like, you can't have bigger lips or different cheekbones or things like that by just eating healthy and working out. That's like I mean,
Ozempic is a perfect example of us deciding that we want to quickly have something done. I mean, our society is built around like, I need fast. I don't want to actually work for it.
Right.
Most people are not disciplined. Most people are not obedient. Most people are not wanting to really, really put effort to something. We just want a quick fix. Yeah. Like, our whole society is built on quick fix, right? I want to look like that. Tomorrow you could do that. You could do that tomorrow. It's not a goal. It's just an option. And we have built society for the younger generation to know that they can pick an option. Do you want to be fat tomorrow? Cool. You can eat all the McDonald's you want. Do you want to be skinny tomorrow? You can have Ozempic. Do you want to look like Kim Kardashian? Cool. Here's your surgeon. That is really what we're living in. And we have all agreed, even though we don't think consciously we want to agree to this, we have subconsciously agreed that this is going to be our normal. And which is why AI has been so compatible for so many things, right? With marketing, especially, not only a tool. I mean, I look at ChatGPT and I think, okay, what is going on right now in our society? More people are alone than ever, right? Because we have ChatGPT, because we have an AI system that gives us comfort at night to talk to. What is the next rollout? I mean, I'm in marketing. The robot, the actual full form robot in your home. Not only is it going to talk to you, but it's going to be your new boyfriend. And that is where we are growing these marketing pieces. I see it so clearly when I see things happen and they just suddenly just plop in our hands. Like there's a strategy there. I'm in marketing. This didn't happen overnight and someone's like, I have a great idea. It's like, no, we groom people to believe that they are comforted, their emotional connection. We have so much data on everyone now of what is behind ChatGPT. I mean, everyone talks to chat like they're telling their biggest secrets to a data company, right? And so think about how much that accumulates. They're building the perfect robot for you.
Right.
And so...
Yeah, no, it's crazy. And you think about the thing that... Like, I use ChatGPT a lot for a lot of things, like utility purposes, like organize this and do that. Like it can do things way faster, and time is of the essence. But the one thing I'm like, everything can't be a good idea. It'll be like, that's a great idea, and then you're like, but wait, no, I want to do this way. Like that's also a great idea.
Yeah.
And so everything's like this positive affirmation that's coming to you.
We're narcissists. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Social media, we're a narcissist. We highlight, we think we're great. ChatGPT is telling us we're great. I mean, everything in our society is trying to tell us we're great, right? And what does that exploit? It exploits us not to serve others well, which is really valuable for a lot of people. I mean, no one wants to serve everyone well because we all are entitled. Our robots telling us we're great. Instagram by our engagements telling us are great.
Right.
And we're constantly being fed this idea that we're great. I mean, I drank the Kool-Aid too. And it's hard not to, right?
Yeah.
We're being told to.
And this idea that you'll have a robot that'll do all these things for you, it'll be your boyfriend or girlfriend and stuff, is that why that will probably actually get traction is because people will come up with the boyfriend that's perfect for them or the girlfriend that's perfect, that everything happens exactly and you're told everything you want to. But conflict and then resolution is actually character building, right? And like having disagreements.
Thank you for saying that.
It's necessary.
Conflict is so important because it shows how a person shows up for you. How they respond to something that might be hard to talk about is a great window into someone's heart, right? But no one wants to deal with... I have never been ghosted by so many people in the generation we're in. Like no one wants to actually communicate. No one actually wants to tell the truth. I know all my friends know that if they want to hear the truth, they come to me, right? Because I don't sugarcoat things, but it's the way you deliver conversation to someone is how kind or how hard your heart is, right? I will admit I had a very hardened heart before, and the way I would communicate to people would take their knees out. And now I really, really try to slow down what I'm trying to say and come to a conversation of conflict of let's find a resolution. I value you. I love you. And this is coming from my heart.
Right.
And so when you have a robot taking over, they're not going to have any conflict. You are the master to your own demise. Right. And the problem with this generation that's coming up is no one wants to talk about conflict. They're afraid to even socialize. And no one is perfect for them because they're being told that this story online that you have to be beautiful, you have to be all brains. I mean, even if you wear the wrong team on your hat, you are not an option anymore. Like, who are we? We can't even talk and learn to know that it takes time to compromise and become in a relationship. And now we are like, oh, you wore red, that kind of red. I don't even like that color. We are so surface level. Yeah. So this robot, I think, is going to immediately take all, like, it's going to wear the color you want. It's going to say the right things. You are going to be so stoked to have a robot.
But you programmed it like that.
You programmed it like that because all your ChatGPT information is injected into it.
So being someone who's helping brands build their identities and do all these things, and you have these strong beliefs around this, do you find yourself in conflict ever where you're like, no, these are the standards. I'm not going to do whatever some of these things are for another brand? Or are you finding as this is all evolving, you're having to I don't know, maybe turn deals down or have tough conversations and say, no, this is how I believe it needs to be done?
Yeah, I think right now I'm in a space in my heart because of my new direction of life. I've turned down a lot of things because they're not my values. Right. And reputation used to be very important, and it still is because I value how I'm being seen, right? I want people to see Jesus in me. That's how I value myself right now, and that is a level of reputation, right? But for me, I don't want to just do anything in my life just to do it. Before, that was easy for me, right? You know, I'll do this drink brand, I'll do this brand, whatever. Now it's like I had a client reach out to me the other day and was like, "Hey, Lindsey, like we have to launch, roll out for alcohol. Like alcohol's not doing well right now. You know, the new generation doesn't want to promote drinking. Everyone's like on this health and wellness." And I was like, well, I'm one of those people. I don't drink. I haven't drank for 8 years. And to me, I'm not going to promote anything that I won't stand behind. I don't want to. I have an obligation in my life to give value to others. Why am I going to promote something that's saying it's good for you and I don't even touch it? Right? That would hurt my heart. So I turn down things because it's not aligned with, I want people to trust me. And with that trust means at every level of my life, I have my core values there. So.
Well, good for you. Yeah. It's not easy to turn stuff down.
Not at all.
No.
It's not.
It comes
very
turning
hard.
those down also comes with money, right? When you're in business, it's not like you're turning down like a sleazy guy asking you on a date. You're turning down a client trying to pay you and give you money.
Yes. So. But it was funny because that client respected me so much and they were like, "You're actually making me want to leave the alcohol industry." Wow. And be healthy. Dang. And just from me saying that.
That's amazing.
So that
words are powerful.
Yes, exactly. And for me, that warms my heart more than anything. That I showed an example of having valuable a valuable foundation. Because a lot of people just don't do that.
Yeah. So I want to go back to something you brought up and then let's get into the real reason you're here. But you talked about peptides.
Yeah.
And peptides are like all the craze. Like you see them all over the place. And I don't fully understand them. I don't think most people completely understand them. I feel like I've gone through this long journey in my life where I felt indestructible and I didn't care what I put in my body. And it was like, who cares? Don't think about that. It's not a way to live, eat or drink or do, whatever you want kind of thing. Right.
Yeah.
To having kids, wanting to be way healthier, reading labels, like completely different on the food side of things. So synthetic stuff is kind of like, oh, do I want that or not? How does it work? So I would like to better understand the peptides, what they are, how do you use them, maybe your journey with them, that kind of stuff. And like break it down. Give me the 101. Like, what is this all about?
Yeah, I mean, I was on a very gnarly health journey for a long time. I had Lyme disease, which a lot of people don't understand what that is. But I don't have it anymore.
Okay, because this is a chronic illness? Anomaly? No, like that you don't have it?
No. I think that a lot of people aren't educated enough that autoimmune diseases can go away.
They just often don't.
Yes.
Because they're not treated right.
They're not treated right. And for me, I went a holistic route. A lot of times with Lyme, doctors pressure you into an antibiotic situation, which is lifelong. And with
Lyme disease, like you get bit by a tick often, right?
Well, that's not common. Only a tick. And that's the misconception is like, you learn so much when you get sick and you don't have to learn a lot, but I'm a very curious person. So a tick, a mosquito, a vaccine. You can get Lyme a lot of different ways. I do not believe Lyme is natural. I believe Lyme was a bioweapon. So that's my personal, after all the information I have learned, that is how I look at Lyme. And so with that, I think every autoimmune disease is layers of things in your life that's just the cherry on the cake that just makes everything destructive, right? So think about all the trauma in your life. Just put it all in this room, right? That's a lot of energy. And then put everything that is hardening your heart, like everything you're angry about, work stress, all these things. And then you just suddenly get bit by a tick. All of that spiritual, emotional, physical breakdown. And then you just have something that just, spreads a little bit like a sprinkle. Of course, your whole body's going to just be destroyed because some people can have a tick, bite them, and nothing ever happens to them.
Right.
And then someone like me who just had so much trauma, so much physical stress, and my work environment, the people around me who just were eating at me and needed me and just sucking the life out of me. Of course my downfall was going to be a tick. So I don't believe that, and this is my own personal journey. I am not speaking for anyone else,
sure,
but I don't believe that anything is really chronic. I think everything has a hold on you, whether it's spiritual, mental, physical. I mean, there are so many studies that you can actually convince yourself you're ill forever. And it's
like hypochondriac stuff.
Oh,
right?
100%. Like, and some people, even too, when I had Lyme disease, I wanted to stay ill for a minute there. My brain was going there because I felt like I don't have to do anything. Like I can just be sick and people will feel sorry for me.
Well, it's like probably why people get stuck on like disability and stuff, right? They find like, oh man, I hated my job. I didn't want to go and do all this. Society's tough to live in. And now I guess if I can live under this standard, I don't have to do anything.
Exactly. And I was there. I mentally had that moment of maybe this is what I want. And that's a really scary place to be. And everyone else is the reason why you're sick or the reason why things aren't going right. And that is when I had to really lean on Christ because I didn't have an option. And so, but that's my personal journey. I don't want anyone to feel like I don't have empathy for their journey of what they're dealing with. But I went such a crazy route of deleting people out of my life, reorganizing my entire environment, getting out of LA. Like all these things matter when it comes to being ill. Like if you're not happy, you will never get out of an illness. And that happiness and that joy comes not only from friends, from your environment, but from a spiritual bond with God. And I learned that God was the reason why I got out of that. And
when were you diagnosed with Lyme disease?
I was diagnosed in, I want to say like 7 years ago. Okay. I did a shoot in Nashville, and I remember one of the videographers was like, be careful, there's ticks out here. And I was like, ticks? Why would I care about ticks? I just, you don't think about that stuff, especially when you don't have any education about like a autoimmune disease like Lyme. Lyme is very taboo. Why is it taboo? Because doctors have not educated themselves on it, right? It's like this disease that they don't know about, but they say that they know, but they don't. And so I was like, oh, okay, that's weird, right? But that was a tap from Jesus to me, the Holy Spirit. That was a tap, like, hey, watch out. That night, I look at my stomach, and there's a tick burrowed in my stomach. And immediately, I just went from happy to, oh my gosh, I think I'm ill. Like, and it takes 10 days for the symptoms to kick in usually, but I just knew.
What is it though? For someone who doesn't really know what happens with Lyme disease, like what are you dealing with?
I mean, everyone has a different, level of symptoms, but I had everything. My brain wasn't working. Everything was backwards. I couldn't remember things. And in my line of work, I'm a creative director. My brain is my like power tool. So you can't remember anything. You're constantly feeling like your heart's beating out of your chest. You are suicidal. I felt like Jeffrey Dahmer was in my head every day. Like, jump out the window. Just go kill yourself. I couldn't eat very many things. My stomach was always like disruptive, like gut issues. I couldn't sleep at night. But at the same time, think of like your worst jet lag and then times it by 10. I was tired every day. I could not go see people. I avoided people. I just couldn't work. And then on top of that, you couldn't tell your insurance company because they'll drop you. Because Lyme, you can't actually die from. So I was spending, I think, $30,000 my first month on IV drips and blood infusions and frequency.
Hold on a minute. How do you get dropped from the insurance? I mean, I'm in insurance.
So they don't cover Lyme.
Right.
So nothing that you have, like if you start telling your insurance company that you have Lyme disease, they'll drop you because it's too costly. So I had to do everything on the side. I had to do all my integrational stuff, all my supplements, everything on the side. I couldn't tell because they would just keep on being like, we can't, like, this is not possible. So
without going down that deep rabbit hole on that end of things, there's a lot of different insurance coverages, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Like on an employer plan, you can't get dropped. Like there's whether they cover it or not but they can't drop you for usage. On an individual plan, with all of the like refinements that have happened to like no pre-existing conditions and things like that, like you should be able to keep coverage, just not have coverage on certain things.
You can't. I've talked to way too many Lyme and none of them can tell their insurance company about the Lyme. And that's the thing that is really weird about this disease is that no one is compatible with it, right? Like cancer is fine, all these other things, but Lyme, 1, it's taboo. 2, every doctor thinks that they know about it and they don't. Like when they tell you, when I first discovered that I had Lyme and I went to a doctor's office, they were like, well, you don't have a bullseye on your body. And that's the indicator of Lyme. Come to find out, you don't need a bullseye obviously. I didn't have one. And it's only 30% in people that have one. So a lot of people go misdiagnosed for depression. Most doctors diagnose Lyme as depression. So they put you on these crazy meds that are so insane that just destroys your brain even more. And so these people are living in trauma their whole life and not even knowing that they have Lyme disease until it's too late, because Lyme actually gets into your muscles. So when I had Lyme disease, imagine doing 100 push-ups, right? You can only imagine how sore you are, right? That's how I felt every day. Just that age soreness. It felt like I was like 80 years old, and then I would cry in hot yoga because I couldn't do anything. Like I was trying so hard to just be there, but your body feels like you've already done it 100 times already.
Wow.
And it's just excruciating. But there's so much misdiagnosis with Lyme. There's so much education that I've been through, that I've learned behind the veil of insurance policy in doctors, and thinking that they I was working with the Lyme specialist of the specialists, and they were pushing me to do antibiotics for the rest of my life. How evil is that?
That's evil.
Yeah.
And whether it's they want to loop you into a system they tie you into, or they really truthfully think they're doing better, the root of it is evil for sure. It's
evil. It's when I was in a conversation with her about it, she tried to convince me that I've gotten bitten before this, and that this was going to be my normalcy. And I just want to say to everyone, you have to be so careful about what your eyes and your ears hear, because it will determine your life after, right? If someone told you, Matt, that you were going to die in 3 days, and it was a doctor, your brain is so smart, it's going to believe that. And that is why I never went to a doctor that wouldn't give me life. I found doctors that were like, you're going to heal tomorrow. You're going to heal tomorrow. Because I needed that reassurance that my body wasn't going to just turn into a computer and break down on the date it said it was going to be.
Right.
And it's so powerful. Everything you read, you watch, you listen to, those are words that are constantly going into your brain. I mean, just like Satan is, the angel of music. It's a reason why he is in the music industry, because we listen to music, we consume that, and we become that. And it's so important to be careful what you listen to, because you will become that. Why do you think rappers talk about getting bitches and all these things and making money, and then everyone around them, that's what they consume, right? It's because you're being constantly told to do that. And so when it came to my illness, I only wanted people around me that were speaking life into me. Godly people, Christians, people who saw me as like, you're going to heal. That's the people you want. And when I see someone that is dealing with chronic autoimmune, it's like my first question to them is, who is around you? Who are you listening to? Who are you watching? What's your environment? Like all the spiritualness in your life. Like, are you praising Satan, or are you loving Jesus? Because when you have something that loves you so much, you're going to be free of a lot of things. And so when people ask me, how did you heal? And they're so confused when they look at me. They're like, I thought Lyme you can't heal from. And it's like, who said that to you? Who told you that was true? It's not true for me. It's not true for a lot of my friends. And it's in Luke 18:28 that God can do the impossible, right? And we all have had, miracles in our life, and me being free of Lyme was a miracle. Yeah. So,
I mean, that is a miracle. Praise God.
Yeah.
In that whole healing process, did you use the peptides for that, or that was just your eyeball thing?
Oh man, I wish I knew about peptides at that time. I think that, and I follow a girl that has Lyme and she uses peptides. I think they're a very powerful tool. A lot of them, you know, we already have in our body, like NAD. Our body naturally produces that. So some of these peptides are just, you know, when we age and we get older, we don't have much of it anymore. So it's almost like just like producing more in the cells. One I would say that has saved me from like my accident of my eye, which turned me into Wolverine. Like I healed in a week, which would probably have taken 3 months if I didn't use peptides, was BP 157. Okay. It's just a healer. And I noticed too, even too in my nails, like some of my nails were yellow and they completely turned white. So it was just clearing up all bacterias and healing a lot of things in my cells. I do not agree with every peptide. I think that would be weird to like say every peptide's great.
But they're all natural?
No.
Okay.
There's definitely some synthetic ones. I'm not for GLP-1. I'm not for Ozempic. I think Ozempic gets thrown into like peptide world, but
well, I don't think it did, and then it is now.
I think
right.
The misconception is that most people think it's part of it. You know, people who are not educated on peptides,
right? But
like,
I think
that it's part of it.
So you had like Ozempic,
this
big old thing comes out, and it's all this controversy on it and stuff like that. And then now you see like GLP-1, as if it's not the same thing. It's just a different like dosage and maker and right. But GLP-1 is basically the technical term for Ozempic.
Yes. So like it would be like Kleenex, you know, it's a brand name, but it's still tissue paper.
Right.
I think everyone should do their research. I don't think that everything is good for everyone. My body is not operating the same way as yours. And you know, the word peptide sounds great on paper, but I still think you should educate yourself on what you're throwing into your body.
Right.
I don't think you should just inject yourself just to inject yourself because someone else is doing it. Right. The one that I kind of was really upset about, not upset, but I think I was wishing it was working better, was the GHKCU, which is a copper. It's for beauty, and it helps like regenerate skin and wellness and everything. But the copper, and I know a lot of women that have had this issue, sometimes guys don't have this issue, but when you inject it, the inject site is stubborn and the copper doesn't like disperse. So it feels like it's hurting in that little area and it's like annoying. And so I stopped using it. And I think with all these people that are trying to highlight peptides, they don't actually educate people on the repercussions of some of these things. They just go and buy it. And so I try to, on my platform, educate people like, hey, this sounds great, but did you know that also this can happen? And I don't use that many peptides, but I do use specific ones.
Right. So where can someone go to do their research? I feel like it's this unknown thing. Reddit has a lot of, like, if you read Reddit has a lot of everything.
I know, and that's the thing. I think people like look on Twitter, and I get a lot of my information from valuable sources when it comes to like peptides. I've had an integrational doctor for a really long time who knows my body, who knows what will work, what won't. Some of these peptides will give you really gnarly histamines. I tried a growth hormone, CJC, for 3 months just to test it because I mean, it gave me the best golf swing of my life. I was hitting like 250 and then I was hitting 350 with it. And so, I mean, if you want to just lift a car, the growth hormone's great. Right. But after 3 months of using it, I was getting really gnarly histamine reactions to where like I was on the ground, like going, what's going on? So you have to, no. And so some of these things, you just don't know the side effects, right? And they work differently with different with different people, I think I was getting a histamine because I was living in mold and I was having mold toxicity. So when you have your body already dealing with something, it's going to react to something like that that's coming in that's synthetic differently.
So you recently posted this whole regimen on mold.
Yes.
So I think there's a lot, there are a lot more people living in mold than they probably know.
Everyone is.
To
a certain degree. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, you don't know. Who knows if it's in the ceiling up here, and I haven't climbed up there and looked for it or something like that, right?
Exactly. And also, mold is very mental. If you don't know about it, you don't think about it, right? But if you know about it and you had mold toxicity, you will forever think about it, which is where I'm at. But go ahead.
Right.
Yeah.
Which takes us back to you are what you think about, right?
Yes, exactly.
So you have to find this like fine line of not obsessing, but the regimen is pretty, and you got a lot of things on that list. I was looking at and reading it. And so what do you think, like the most, if you can only do one or two things, what's something that will like heavily help in your opinion, the whole mold situation?
Oh, man. Yeah. I'm a psychopath right now because I was living in mold for 2.5 years. I was gaslit by my apartment complex, which everyone will be gaslit. Just know that. I recommend you always documenting everything. If you see mold, take photos. And I think the best way to understand mold, and if you're living in it, is how do you feel indoors versus outdoors? That's how I discovered I was in mold. When I was on a volunteer trip and I was in Idlewild and the air was so fresh and I was nervous to go because of how many symptoms I had and I didn't know what they were coming from, that I was like, oh shoot, if I go, I'm going to be really sick. And then I went and I had no symptoms and it just clicked. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm living in mold. So that's the first thing I would suggest people to do. And you have no idea how many people have Alzheimer's that are living in mold. That's why they have Alzheimer's. That's why they can't remember stuff. It got so bad. They lived in their house for so long. Their illness kept getting worse and worse. And then you get Alzheimer's.
That's insane.
Yeah.
The mold issue.
Really scary.
I don't know a lot about it, but I know that like blue cheese is okay. And the mold that grows up in your wall or underneath your sink or wherever these hidden places is not good for you.
Well, peanuts have mold. Blue cheese has mold. I think the last thing you want to do if you have mold toxicity is eat more mold. Coffee has mold.
Right. There are molds that are okay. Isn't like penicillin mold or comes from that? Or
I'm not going to speak to something like that that I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think mold is mold, right? Like if you're ingesting something that is moldy, you are getting at some level, it's not good for you. Like I don't eat peanuts anymore because of the mold. Coffee is, my Achilles heel. So it's hard to not drink coffee, but
there are better and worse coffees.
But there is coffees that don't have mold. Like they specifically said, So when it comes to your house, obviously black mold is the worst. If you are living in black mold, I would be very, very much like, get out of your house. There is other types of mold. There's like around seven different types of mold, right? But black being the worst. Red and green, though, can still give you a lot of sinus issues and a lot of, like if you're always coughing and you're always like, I have so many people reach out to me. They're like, is this mold? I'm like, yes. Like people just look at it and don't think about it.
Right.
And they don't realize that all their symptoms is coming from that, like sinus pressure, coughing, red eyes, you're sluggish in the morning. All these things come from, these spores that you can't see. And I've gotten gaslit for so long because sometimes they come through the walls. So like if there's a leak in the plumbing in your apartment complex, they're not going to tell you about it.
Right.
Because they don't want to remediate your home.
Now there's
it's
a test,
very expensive.
right? You can test for it.
You can test
there's like
for
kits.
it. Yeah.
Is this like ordered on Amazon, or do you need to get it from a special, reputable?
Yeah. So I showed a test kit, which was so funny because my recent apartment, I found mold in it, and they came in going, "What is that kit?" They were like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't know you could do that." And I was like, "Yeah, I know about mold enough to know that I can test it. So they're like these little Petri dishes, and you keep them in a room for an hour. So like, for instance, this place, you would put one on the coffee table and maybe on that desk, and you would shake things around, like maybe this blanket or something, because you want the spores to kind of like filter through the air. And then you leave it for an hour, and then you collect it. You put it in aluminum, you put it in a tight Ziploc, you put it in a cabinet, and you wait 5 days, and you'll see if you have mold in your environment.
I see. And so if nothing grows in there, then you're mold free.
You're good. So nothing was growing in my closet, and that's what I showed them. I was like, there's mold. So there has to be in the walls.
So, I see.
Yeah.
But it's not like a stud finder. You like and then it's like right there.
You know what? Who actually reached out to me? These canine mold finder dogs.
Oh, wow.
So they're in Idaho. Gosh, this is such a plug for them. They're in Idaho, and I think another place too. But their dog comes in and can exactly tell you where the mold is.
Wow, that's crazy.
And I learned in Leviticus in the Bible, it talks about how if you have mold in your house, you have to destroy that house, because even the Old Testament knew that mold was so harmful for you in illness. And it wasn't okay. It wasn't okay back then.
I have a friend that lives in Texas that we were out there visiting. We had our RV on their property, and we went to a kind of like worship night, Bible study gathering thing that they do like once a month, and they have food and gathering, right? And there was all these people, and I was meeting all these different people. And later on that trip, I was talking to my buddy, and I don't know how the story came up, but he was saying that this guy, he was living in like an RV like we were, but I was traveling the country, and we were doing this whole like nomadic thing for a while. And he was living in it because he burned his house down. And I was like, what do you mean he burned his house down? And he said his wife was dealing with mold issues, and she was super sick, and she was in the hospital and coming out of the hospital, and they didn't know what was wrong. For a long time, they didn't know what was wrong. And it was like taking such a toll on their life and their marriage and like all these things, because she was just dealing with this. I mean, you know better than me, but like she was dealing with all this stuff. And I guess, and I might get this story not exactly right because it's through telephone, right? But when they finally knew it was mold in the house, they were going through all kinds of ways to try to get rid of it.
Yeah.
And they could never fully get rid of it. And my friend said that he got a phone call one day from his buddy and was like, come over here, I need your help. And he came over, and he was like, I'm burning it to the ground. And he was like, what? And he's like, I need your help. I'm burning the house down, and we're leaving.
Yeah.
And they burnt the house down. They had taken out, their belongings they wanted and stuff. And he said they burned it down, and it was the craziest thing he'd ever seen, because they lived on like acreage alone. There was just a house on property, And he said this whole thing went up in flames, and the guy's friend like just broke down and was like, it's gone, like, and then they left, and they went on the road, and they I don't know their whole story, but I was like, wow, it like really hit me. I didn't know it was biblical.
Yeah,
but
it is.
But yeah, it was crazy. I happened to have told this story like 3 times. Mold just keeps coming up recently.
You just gave me chills, because I understand why he did that. Because of the emotional toll that he saw through his own family. How could you ever want someone else to live in that? Right?
Yeah.
Like how horrible would that be to sell that house to someone else and have their whole life be sick? Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was very much, I think, like a combination of like, I'm so fed up. I don't know what to do with it. But then it was like
it's a release,
a spiritual,
a spiritual release,
just letting go of like that thing's gone and it's dead and it won't haunt us again.
Yeah. And just to talk about that, what you're talking about, that spiritual release. So when I moved out of my 2.5-year apartment that had mold, when you have mold toxicity, you are traumatized from an environment of living in it again. So I had to move into a brand new building thinking, okay, mentally, I need to stabilize again, because you are constantly in fear of not knowing if you're going to be in it again, because you can't see it. Right. So you're constant, like, think about that trauma of like anything that traumatizes you. It's an invisible trauma.
Yeah.
So when you have mold toxicity and you have mold brain, you're constantly like cleaning and thinking that you're just living in it. Like, my routine at night is insane. And it's only because I'm fearful of it. And your brain can't stop thinking about it unless you feel safe in your environment. And I have to talk to myself and be like, you're safe, you're okay, you're good. And only people that have had mold toxicity really understand. And I think a lot of people have mold brain but they don't know what it is.
Right.
Because when you go to a doctor, they're not going to diagnose you with mold. It's not, there's a certain test you have to actually take for it. And it's a Vibrant wellness test. It's like $500. It tests you for heavy metals. It tests you for mold, everything. But then when you go back and you have this knowledge, right, you have to understand that it's in your home. Think about all these people that live in mold and they own their home.
Yeah.
It's a very big conversation you have to have with yourself. Like, sometimes ignorance is bliss, right? I don't want to believe that my house has mold in it, because then you have to deal with it.
Yeah, no, you don't. You don't want to have to, because it's a pain in the ass, and it's like this. It's not an easy thing to just fix. It's not like a leak and you fix the leak, right? It's this unknown. Yeah, fortunately, I've not had any extreme stories like that, but I've definitely been places where, like, oh, there's mold. Even the old apartment we were in, my wife was like, for sure there was. She feels in tune to that, but didn't have anything as extreme. But they put me up in a hotel and I became a human detector. I walked in a room and I'm like, this place has mold. I have to be in another room. And they had to put me in another hotel room because I could feel the mold in it. And so, like, now my body just can, no matter how tiny the spores are, my body will automatically react. Wow. When I'm in a room. Yeah. So you could start a business like those dogs, right? Just yourself walking into
rooms. But you don't want to be exposed to mold all day.
No, I'm just kidding.
You know, I feel so bad for those dogs. Yeah.
So I said earlier that, like, we'll get to the real reason you're here. I say
and
that.
And I told you we'll be here for 4 hours.
Yeah. So what's going on? Like, you know, you talked about, there many times alluded to kind of old version of you, new version of you. What's this, like, cocoon that you've been in that you now are out of, and what's changed?
I think what's been really amazing is that I've given my entire life up to Jesus. That's what's changed. I can't even describe how thankful I am, because I was living such an ebb and flow of depression and highs, and, you know, thinking that every accomplishment in my life was valuable and important, and just like, then why am I coming home like crying? Why am I so sad? Why do I feel so empty inside? Why do I look like a demonic spirit? Just like in my, and this is the funny thing about all of this is, and we chatted about this because we were going to, you know, talk earlier on in this year, but I was like, I need to finish this. I can't explain it to you, but I need to finish this. And I was called by the Holy Spirit to do the 10 Commandments. By the way, no matter how much you say you're a Christian, you are still learning the Bible. Like, you can never not be more educated. And so, you know, I know the 10 Commandments, but I didn't really fully know them. And when I was called to do them, I was like, okay, I'm going to shut down my Instagram. I'm going to get off Instagram. And he was like, no, you are going to talk about the 10 Commandments. And being called to do that, I was just like, what are you talking about? I don't even know them. I don't know them well enough to talk about them. But he let me learn them. And
you're clearly like a researcher, though, right? You're a mold expert because you had mold and you had Lyme disease, and you know all this stuff. So
he knew I would be a great storyteller. He knew, he played on all my skill sets, right? As a creative director. So I went through each one, and I stopped working for this entire time just to focus on this because I felt really called to do this. And I was like, man, I'm going to have to really, and he's like, I want you to post it on social. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to be embarrassing. This is going to be like me naked in front of an audience of people to really demonstrate what this is. Because if you know the 10 Commandments, it's all the laws that like try to make you better as a human, right? That Moses had talked to with God. So basically I had to learn the one that really stood out that I want to talk about right now is you thou shall not murder, right? And when I read this for the first time, I'm like, I'm not killing anyone.
Right, like it's kind of clear, right?
Yeah. It's like, don't use a gun. Cool, whatever. No. I was murdering all day for most of my life. And that's when it just hit me that I have been murdering the people in my life. I've been murdering my stepdad. I've been murdering my father. I've been murdering my friends. I didn't realize how hardened my heart was. It all starts there, right? You having something like a gun or a knife or whatever, that's the end product. What's the start of that? It's your heart.
Right.
You talking bad about someone, you wanting that person to disappear, you wanting them to not do well. That's all murder for someone.
Well, Jesus talked about murder I'm not going to quote it correctly, but basically redefined those 10 commandments, right? As if it happens in your heart, and you know, adultery is in your heart and the thought, not the act. It's already happened before then. And that's what I learned about the commandments is it all starts with your heart. Everything starts with your heart. And now when I look at people and I see things happening with them, it's like, where is this postured, right? And it all starts here. Even if we don't think it does start here. And I unraveled so many things about myself. I mean, I didn't know why I was doing it. And then when I left the last commandment, I was like, oh my gosh, he had helped me get my relationship back with my dad. I hadn't talked to my dad for 22 years. He got my relationship back with my stepdad. I hadn't talked to him for 16. My family came together more. My friends see that I care about them more. My business clients and everything realize I care about them more. My health has been better. So many things unraveled because of this. And if I hadn't been obedient and I hadn't done that, all these things wouldn't be in my life anymore. Or they wouldn't have, you know? I fully became a new person through doing this task. And I read in the Bible during that time was like, if you get called by something from God and you don't do it, that's just like sinning. Because you're being asked to do that, which is why in Samuel and Saul and David, why God didn't want Saul to be king anymore, because he wasn't obedient and he wanted David to take his place. And so when I look at things that I do, when I'm getting called to do something and someone looks at me and says, you're out of your mind, why are you doing that? It's not about what you want. It's about what he wants. And I see value in that. And right now I'm painting the biggest piece of, it's like 70 by 60 of a face of Jesus. And I've been an artist for a very long time. And I was like, oh man, I am so scared to do this. What if I mess up? What if I don't paint his face right? Because the stuff that I normally paint is very abstract and contemporary, or it's cartoonish. And he has just grabbed my paintbrush in my hand and just painted himself. Wow.
And I can't explain it.
Doing the math, my 70 by 60 is pretty big.
Yes, it's massive. Yeah.
And is this just going to be like your living room piece, or what are you doing?
No, he wants me to, it came to me. I was like, okay, what do we do with this after? And this was what was trippy. And anyone who like feels called by God knows these weird miracles. But so I have 2 rooms, and one of my rooms a painting room, and I always shut both doors, right? Like my bedroom door never opens unless I open it. That door to my painting room, because I've been holding it off for like a month to paint his face because I was freaking out. I was like, I have to paint his face correctly. Kept opening and was like right on his face. It just cracked enough on his face, and it was like, you're painting. Like it just kept talking to me. It was like
you had started it?
I started it,
okay.
And then I was afraid to paint his full face. I was like, I'm not doing that. Like I'm going to wait it out. But he kept opening the door. I wasn't opening that door. He kept opening it and being like, no, you're painting
Like
me.
you didn't leave it like cracked
Nope.
and then it like...
No, I fully was like, this is closed.
Yeah.
And I just started laughing every time he opened it this month. He's like, you're finishing this painting. And now I know why, because the deadline for where I'm supposed to deliver it to is the 22nd of February.
And how far are you from done?
I'm almost done. I'll probably be done in a couple days.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's like perfect timing. And I was just laughing. I'm like, this is why you wanted me to finish it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you said that earlier, the Lyme disease situation, right, is what sort of was a catalyst to start giving your life to Christ or looking for something else, right?
I think my first one was the presence of God when I got in my car accident.
Yeah.
And I knew what I was supposed to do in the end. Like the industry of fame and all that stuff is very demonic.
Yeah.
I know that. I think we all do now after the Epstein files. We all know it's demonic, but it's like you have to bring light into spaces that need light, right? That have darkness. And for me, I grew up modeling, and I saw how many people take advantage of you, want to sleep with you, to do these things and those things, whatever. And so I felt really called to help kids who were coming into this space also, to like help them find an agency that wasn't taking advantage of them, right? So I felt called from that. And then Lyme was just like, no, I'm going to take away your health and everything, and you're going to lean into me and just listen. And that's when I was like, oh man, I don't have an option but just to listen to Jesus.
Right. That was your like Job moment.
Oh,
right? Like
100%. Like
gone.
everything can be taken from you instantly. I love that you said that. It is exactly what happened with Job.
And I think we all can have our different moments of how extreme the Job moment needs to be, right? For us to like listen to that call and have that, I don't know, whether it be conversion or like recommitment back. Did you grow up as a Christian in church, any of that? Or
not at all. I was the person that says, I'm a good person. Why do I need to be Christian? And now I look at that and be like, it's not about that. Being a good person has nothing to do about being Christian. It has everything to do about admitting you have sinned and admitting that you are a sinner and that you can't rely on yourself. You have to rely on Jesus.
How did you come to this then? If it was never like, at what point was your first introduction, or did somebody invite you to church, or do something? How did you actually come to this conclusion? You know what I mean? Like you weren't raised in it, so it had to have a adult life moment where you like remember or think.
Oh yeah. I was dating someone who was very involved in a church, and he kept, bringing me to church and was like, I want you to be involved in this, and I really so badly at the time wanted to feel what everyone was feeling. I felt so fish out of water because I'm like, why is everyone praising God in a way that they're like being electrocuted, that feeling? I'm like, I don't feel it. I don't understand. And for a really long time, I didn't understand, but I was going to Bible study. I was trying so hard, to fit in. And I just didn't feel like I fit in. And so I kind of like stepped away. I feel like I was a fair weathered Christian. Like I was still calling myself Christian, but I was like definitely not Christian and obedience and walking a very narrow path. But I was going, you know, even in the business, I was working with Church Home. We did an event at Coachella. Like I was going to Church Home. I was going to Mosaic, all these churches in LA. But it wasn't hitting the way that it is now. Like after Lyme, I was like getting the phone call, like, your option is me or me, you know? And I was like, I'm choosing you. I'm not choosing myself anymore. And none of this matters anymore. And it wasn't until I left LA, which was the scariest thing. And the only way I can really have someone imagine what I was going through is like, imagine just walking away from the highest achievement you've ever done and just being like, yeah, I'm giving it up. It is so hard. So I have people coming to me all the time and be like, how did you just give it up? How I can't give it up yet. I can't give it up yet. And I'm like, I know. It's the biggest stronghold you'll ever have is giving up everything to be saved. Your salvation. Like you are in chains until you have salvation, right? And I was like, what do I have to lose? I am not happy. So I'm going to disprove the Bible. That's what I really was saying to myself. I'm going to disprove the Bible. I'm going to read it, do exactly what it says, go get baptized and see what happens. And I can always go back to this. I know this. This I know. I couldn't disprove the Bible. Everything it told me to do, I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. And I'm getting chills right now because it's like, I just kept getting happier.
That's amazing.
Like, and when someone on the outside can't see someone's life getting happier and they ask me, what are you doing different? It's not me. I'm not doing this. It's not me. I was doing that. That was me. The darkness was me.
Right.
This is not me. This is me just being an obedient child every day and just being like, okay, this seems hard. Like, what am I doing today? And then he just loves you so much that like, you don't even know what's best for you.
Yeah.
I don't even know what's best for me.
You know, joy, that feeling of joy is something that it can't be achieved. It can only be received.
Yeah.
And the only person who can give it out is God.
Yeah.
And people in our lives can be the tool that is used to have us experience joy. I experience joy through my children all the time, you know, and like the things they say, the funny jokes they crack, the just personality you see brings so much joy. But that gift of them is a gift to me from God that I get to have this experience, you know?
And you see your children and you know what's good for them and they don't see it for themselves.
Yeah.
And that's how I look at my relationship with Jesus is I don't even know what the next day is going to bring, but you know better than I do. And before I was predicting what was good for me, but my heart was getting harder. My life was getting more sad. My achievements were like capping. I was like, nothing feels different. Everything feels empty. And so when you asked me in the beginning, like, did you ever like wish to be famous? Or I don't wish any of those things because I in my own idolizing of myself and my own achievements did nothing bring me happiness or joy.
Right.
It didn't bring me joy.
Well, we live in a world where we're constantly told, like, do what you think feels good, do what you think is right, do all these things, and it's gonna like chase happiness, right?
Yeah.
But Jesus said, deny yourself and follow me. And like, you're living that out, right? You denied all the things that you previously want. You chose and you did this, and then you just got happier and happier and more spirit filled, more joy, all these things. And I think it's like, that is sort of the unexplainable, untangible, like how do you give that to another person? Like if somebody's like, what is it? And you're like, you just have to sort of try it, right? Like you got to experience it. I have a friend that was a pastor for a long time, and he told me that their like methodology in being able to bring people in and then actually live a life fulfilled and in Christ was belong, believe, behave. And he said, if you can create an environment where people feel like they can belong there, even if they maybe aren't, like, come as you are. Don't feel judged. I mean, you hang around long enough, you might end up feeling like not judged by us, but judged by, you know, the Word of God. It has a set of instructions and rules. But, you know, if you can come to an environment, you feel like, hey, I kind of fit in here. I belong here. I am comforted. Then you're going to start to believe. You'll be around it enough. It'll start to you'll get enough exposure. You'll start to believe. And if you believe, then you'll begin to behave a certain way. And not everyone's that way. Some people, you know, the person on the side of the street screaming fire and brimstone is their conversion point. They're like, great, I don't want to go to hell, so I'm going to believe. But most people is like, I can be here and tolerate and feel comfortable, and then I'm hearing all of this and I'm starting to believe it, and then my behaviors fall in line with my beliefs. Yeah,
I've noticed that you have this gravity pull of people when you finally become light and like I said in the beginning, like, I want people to see Jesus in me. It's because people will mirror you, right? And they see something that they, like, want to be a part of and they want to achieve. And when I was exposed to that, when I didn't even know God, when I didn't have a relationship with Jesus, I wanted it so bad because I saw these people just like their light in their eyes was different. It's like, you can't even make that person sad. I want that. Like, how do I get a cup of that every morning? You know, I'll trade in coffee for that. And now, I mean, my whole world has changed. The people around me, what used to be was like, people were asking me for things, right? When I was sick, when I had Lyme disease, people were like, hey, can you get me that private jet? Or, hey, can you get me this or whatever? I'm like, I'm in my deathbed right now. And now, just moving to another apartment, everyone's like, can I pray for you? Do you need help? Do you want to go to Bible study with me? Do you know, what is all this? Like, how do you not want that? People praying for you for good. And like, when you had a bad day, people want to support you. And when you need to move, people actually show up instead of be like, oh, I'm so busy. I you know.
Yeah. Well, I think
such a different perspective.
I think when you make a conscious choice to, like, invite Christ into your life and not even for the first time, but when you make a decision and you're like, okay, I'm going to unharden my heart, or I'm going to open myself up. It's sort of like, if you take you know, like when you add milk to coffee, it's like dark. And you add this white milk. It like over. Slowly starts like going, you see it. And then the next thing you know, it's everywhere. And I feel like even in my life, I grew up in church and I've always known it. And then, you know, you kind of reach this, at least this is common with people who grew up in the church. You reach this point where you're like, I'm an adult, I'm do my own thing. You know, you go to college, do all these things. You kind of like want to go see the world for what it is that you never really were, that you were kind of sheltered from. And then you find your way back, right? And so that happened. But anyway, the more recent thing is like, we had business. We took on some money to scale. Going into that, it felt like anything I touched would turn to gold, that all things would go well. Well, things didn't go as planned, right? And I've talked about this on the mic a few times, and like, but to where it like just backwards in every area, right? And like a lot of things crashed and burned, and we didn't go under, but it was like super challenging. And through this period of like refinement and depression and feeling like there's no confidence and all this stuff, I finally found a place where I was like, okay, this is what full surrender looks like. Like I made it to that spot. It was right around the same time I was like talking to Richard and like, we're going to do this podcast. And it's just been crazy how I'm not asking anyone to come on here and talk about Jesus. I'm not asking anyone to talk about their faith. Like, that's never been anything. I'm just reaching out to interesting people that I might know. And 50% of everyone who's been a guest has been through invitation from someone who was already on here. And it just seems to be coming, like, I'm like, it's just weird. Like, every time, like, I have conversations, it just
leads to Jesus.
It's just infiltrating, all over the place. And so it's just crazy how that kind of happens. But I go back to that example. Once you pour the milk in the coffee, it's not possible for it to not get all mixed up in there, right? It takes a second, or maybe you stir it to make it happen a little faster, but that dark black coffee turns into creamy looking milk, and that's it. It's tan now.
And I think it's not a coincidence. You know, I think that's how good God is. If you just listen and hear him, and I'm really learning a lot about fasting now.
I was going to ask you if you've done any fasting.
So I feel like I do intermittent fasting, but there's something so beautiful about fasting because the body heals when you sleep for that period of time and period of hours. Like, your body gets the most healing, right? Everyone knows that. Like, if you lack sleep, your body's not good, anything. And that is a period of fasting because you're not taking anything in, right? So when I think about, you know, when people are talking about like, oh, you know, the Bible talks about people living 300 years, or like, it's because they fasted. People had time to have their body naturally heal without eating. And that is what our body does. And so when Jesus did 40 days, 40 nights, and he was listening and leaning in, like, everyone you listen to that has fasted and talked about hearing God better and hearing things clearly, and you can like be more in tune with your body, it's because you're not ingesting things that make it lethargic, make it brain stupid. Like, we eat stuff that makes us stupid. And so when you take all that away and you let your body naturally, I mean, we're designed so beautifully. We are so beautifully designed. Every little piece of us has a reason and a rhyme. I think there's something so wonderful about fasting now that I didn't even see. And there's a reason why the Bible says to do it.
Right. Well, it says not if, but when you fast.
Exactly.
Right? And so when I had Neil on here, we talked about fasting for a little while. And so I kicked off this year with a 7-day fast, water only. I had never fasted more. I did a 3-day once, but when I did the 3-day, it was more experimenting with like autophagy and this whole 72-hour fast. It wasn't. So I went into it this time and I was like, okay, I'm going to do this fast. And my purpose is truly to like pray and fast and sort of have a clean slate. And, if you've not done anything extended like that, I'll give you a few pointers or tips here. But day one for me was easy because I've done a bunch of 24-hour fasts like that. If you've never done it, 24 hours is pretty challenging the first time you ever do it. But once you hit 24 hours, then I felt like, I was like, okay, no worries. After the 3rd day, day 4, significantly the most challenging after the 24 hours. And I was encouraged by Neil not to quit on the 4th day, to make it past keep it that going. Because he said, I can't tell you how long to go. You got to like pray about it, find a time and like commit, but do not end it on the 4th day. Cause he said the 4th day is the hardest, and the day that's physically the hardest is the day spiritually it will be the best.
Yes, I love that.
So he's like, you got to make it through that 4th day, whatever you do. So I kind of prayed about it, and I just felt like this number 7 was like I'm going to go 7 days. So after that 4th day was over, though, I noticed that it actually got easier. Like, I was never getting hungrier.
Isn't that insane?
It was crazy because I went into it thinking like, okay, every day I'm going to get hungrier. And by the 7th day, I'm going to be in like excruciating like hunger pains. Like, how am I going to even do this? But I'll find a way through it. Not at all. After the 4th day passed, I just felt like I had an empty stomach. And the amount of conversations happening with God was like constant all the time, because you constantly are reminded you don't have any food in your stomach. Even if you're not having hunger pains, you just know that it's empty.
Yeah.
And every now and then, more than hunger pains, I love food. I like taste buds are like a gift to God for me.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to eat something. You'd smell something.
Yeah.
Food smells become insane.
Yeah.
Where you're like, oh my God.
Your senses are like heightened.
Oh, you're like, is that the best burger I've smelt in my life? You know?
Yeah.
And it's like, what a normal cooking. But anyway, so I feel like in that 7 days that I had more conscious or subconscious communication with God, because you're just like remembering that you're in this thing. And so constantly it would just be anything, like it was like that, you know, the like the good and bad on your shoulder kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Well, it was like you just had a good one on both shoulders, and it was like you're working and doing things and you're like, well, what should I do here? Or like, how do I do this? Or like, I don't know. It was just hard to explain, but it was just, it felt like for a week straight, I was in these micro conversations all the time.
Yeah.
And because I had gone into it thinking, how do you pray and fast for 7 days? I'm supposed to take off work and stuff and just have scheduled like prayer and all this stuff. And so I was like, I'm not going to be able to do that. But no, it was like constant little micro things. 5, 10, 15 second, 20 second, just thoughts, but you're just so aware. And I think it has a residual effect for a period of time. Like you break the fast and then you eat, and then there is a period of time where like, God, you just appreciate food. Like you're just eating it and you're like, wow, I'm just tasting it. I don't know. It's the whole experience. I encourage anyone to do it. I think it's amazing. It's definitely peaks and valleys of how hard it is and easy it is and all this stuff. But anyway.
Well, I think also too, you know, just you describing that so beautifully is also why there's such a threshold of hard thought of like fear of it. Like I think, you know, in the Bible, you know, do not fear, because Satan wants you to not enjoy fasting, right? He's like, no, like you're going to miss out on all this gluttony, you know, and all this enjoyment. Like, and that's when you know you live in an upside down world, right? Is you're fearful to do something that's better for you because your fear of missing out of like all this bad food that you're going to, you know, have to escape from. And
even if you eat great quality food.
Well, this is the thing. I don't think there's great quality food anymore. If we're going to be real about that. But I do believe that fasting is something that people are afraid to do because we are afraid to not eat. And I think biblically, people weren't eating because they could hear God, right? Like that was the value of that. And in society, we try to bring in so much noise to not hear God. When I took 4 months off of work, right? Just to listen to God. He talks so much when you're not working. Like it is crazy how busy work can distract you from hearing what he has to say to you. And when I took those 4 months off and I was just doing the 10 Commandments and reading the Bible, man, all my friends were like, oh, I wish God would talk to me. I'm like, just come over. I'm like, he is yapping at me all day, telling me all these things to do. And that's why I was like doing so many things, because I felt so called by him. And I can only imagine what that looks like even more if I fasted while I was doing that.
Yeah. I mean, you pray about it, but I would try it. I think if you've never done more than 24 hours, I say try to do that 4 days, because that fourth day was pretty powerful. Yeah. That fourth day, I want to say think I'm remembering it right, but it was a Sunday. We were at church doing worship and stuff like that. And I like closed my eyes for a minute, and then I just caught myself starting to cry, and I didn't really know why. And I was like, just like, oh, this is just the presence of God I get. Like there was there's no specific thought. I just was like feeling the music and emotion, you know, for a little bit. But yeah, I would say do the 4 day at least to try that.
Yeah.
And it's not easy, but it's not as hard as you would think it's going to be.
Yeah. It's just another, well, I don't know if you know this, but processed food was actually designed by the same scientists that designed cigarettes to be addictive. And there was a reason for that, right? You know, the more you eat things that are addictive, the more you're tired, the more you don't think about things, the more you turn into the movie WALL-E, and you're just in a remote control drinking.
I hate that movie.
But it's true.
It makes me sick watching it. I'm like, this is really, and
but
you know how movies
real.
are all predictive. And we're all gonna float around fat.
That is real. Like, we're all just gonna turn into just a blob.
With robots that date us.
Exactly. That movie's, you know, actually it would be interesting to watch that movie now, because I feel like there's so much that's in real time really happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like many movies.
Yes, like many movies.
Let's just hope it doesn't turn out like...
that's a whole nother
yes.
conspiracy. I love that stuff, by the way.
Let's hope the robots, we don't find ourselves in like Terminator 1.
Oh, right? Yeah, I know. And for a long time, I love that movie. It's so good. But it is a reality check, too.
Yeah, no, for sure. But I think on the point you were making a second ago that like we're afraid to eat, and even if you were 100 miles away from anything, homesteading every piece of food that you had, and it was the best quality food, denying yourself of that and leaning on God and going through the fast will have its miraculous effect. Even if you don't have brain fog from processed foods and all these things, there's an element there, right? And that's why 2,000 years ago, it was before all these different carcinogens and things existed and all that did a thing. But I think there's two things that most people in the church are afraid of that would bring the most value, healing, joy, connection, and depth with God. And it's fasting and tithing.
Oh, 100%.
Giving your money and
don't
giving
forget
up
praying.
food.
Praying is very valuable.
But I think there's less a fear of it.
Yeah.
So tithing and fasting, in my opinion, are things that the body of the church as a whole are probably the two things that are spoken out of people's mouths more than they're willing to do. People will engage in prayer, and I mean, that's their own private thing, whether you are or are not and all that stuff. And I'm not saying you need to vocally do it. Fasting is not to create a display of yourself, but
no, fasting, biblically, you're not supposed to talk about your fast.
Yeah,
you know?
Well, I feel like sharing it now after it's over is different than like in the middle of it.
Yeah, I think if you're in it, you're not supposed to talk about it. You're supposed to do it as like.
Well, I think the idea is like you could turn it into a show, right? You can be like, look at me, I'm fasting, right?
Yeah.
It goes back to your heart posture.
Yes, exactly.
So if someone's like, hey, you're not eating, and you're using that moment to say, hey, I'm actually in a fast right now, I'm praying, I'm doing this thing, have you ever tried it? Like, you can use it as a great entry point to have a good conversation versus being like, everyone, I'm on day 5, I'm announcing, and like documenting out loud. But yeah, I think those are two things that if you really were to audit people, and we all got our own journey, but there's many more claims talking about fasting and giving your tithes than people actually do it. And I think that their own fear is holding back the major reward that comes from the two things.
I can't agree with you more. Tithing is so valuable. I've noticed more blessing coming out of tithing, and tithing is not only just giving to a church. I've been called so many times to give to others, in times where like, and my girlfriend will tell you, like, I woke up in the middle of the night just to tithe her, and I didn't know, but I felt God was like, you have to do it now. And there's something so beautiful about serving others well. I think we have this scarcity mindset that money is like, if we have to hold on to our money, and when you have a scarcity mindset, you think that constantly, like you think you're going to be poor or something, but all of our money is God's money. Everything that we are rewarded or feel valuable is God's. It's not ours. And so if you don't already tithe and you're fearful of it, I so will admit that it is scary in the beginning, but once you do it, it's like you don't you don't need to worry about where it's going.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing with money. Like, always know that you don't have to worry about it. It's the love of your heart for Jesus to give to someone who might need it more than you, and to trust that God is going to bless you somewhere else.
Yeah. Well, I've kind of looked at it as trying to do things with 100% of your own money or 90%, but with God.
Yeah.
You know, it goes a lot more. But, you know, I've definitely had seasons where never did it, and then committed and did it, and then fell out of the habit, and then recommitted to it, and have had relapse of scarcity mindset that I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? Like, why am I thinking this way? Like, you know what I mean? Like, so I think it's this journey, but I definitely feel like whenever you're not that penny pinching person who's got I have a friend that calls it dinosaur arms. You can't reach into your back pocket. Or T-Rex arms.
That's
right?
Great. Yeah.
Or kangaroo arms, right? Whatever that when you don't have that, and you feel that sense of like, it's okay to not have to keep every penny. That usually that's when things feel like they're more abundant and more flowing.
For sure.
That kind of stuff.
I think that's where the trust comes in, and that's where, once again, the words, you know, like, are you speaking in life into you, or are you speaking death into you, right? And the death is the scarcity part. Like, you're fearing everything. And that's a really big stronghold too, to stay in that kind of mindset that everything is doing disvalue to you.
The mindset's super important.
Yeah.
So what do you feel is beyond the horizon when it comes to when you kind of look out and try to break your limiting beliefs? Where's the next chapter you see kind of God directing you, and where you really feel you want to pursue energy? And
well, I mean, he's kind of stripped the girl boss away from me. He's like, you don't need to be there anymore. And we've been sold the dream, like, us women have been sold the dream that you're going to be fulfilled in your job and you're going to love it there. And I will tell you, I have drank the Kool-Aid, ate the apple, everything, right? And I've realized that family, being a wife, being married, being in the kitchen, man, if this last 4 months I've been in the kitchen, I'm like, wow, I am supposed to be here. Like, you know, it's so much more fulfilling. I volunteer for foster kids, and I love being around children, and I'm supposed to be a mom. You know, that's what God made me for, to be a helper to a man. And I really, really don't love where we're going with this mantra that women have to say we don't need men. Like, what are we talking about? Our whole existence around everything that's built around us is men. Like, I don't think I feel safe enough to go outside without a man next to me. I don't feel like a lot of things I do is without a man building it, right? I don't want to build it. I don't even want to change my own tire. Right. So I just, it hurts my heart that we are exchanging these roles that we were not biblically supposed to be. Like, I'm not supposed to be a man, and a man's not supposed to be the woman in the relationship. And I think that's why we're all so lonely, is because we are trying to take on someone else's responsibility that we can't withhold, right? Like, we're coming into a relationship and wearing the pants, and then the man's wearing the dress, and we're like, why don't we get along? Because we're doing each other's jobs. And it's just not working out. And I really believe that's why there's so much loneliness, and why we're separated so much now.
Did you previously hold a belief where you felt, I don't need a man, I don't need to get married, I don't, you know, I'm just be a boss babe type thing? Or
I definitely think I pushed a lot of my relationships away, thinking that I could do everything by myself. Yes. When I look back at my relationships, I see my boyfriends being like, can you just stop working? I always chose work, and they always wanted me to choose them, right? They wanted me to stay home. my exes would be like, you don't have to work. And I would think my thought processes was like, oh, you want my money. You don't want me, or not, you want my money. You don't want me to work because you want to control me. That's not really what it was. Now that I see biblically, it's like, no, like, I want you to be happy. I want you to be home and be happy where you're going to be happy. And it took me a really long time to realize that.
Yeah. Well, I think that on this subject, like in our house, we've chose intentionally that my wife is a stay-at-home mom, takes care of the kids, is homeschooling, doing things like that. I'm working. That hasn't always been easy. Some seasons have been easier than others to accomplish that. But at the same time, like, there's this, like, it doesn't have to be this ultra rigid line where it's like, oh, you can't have these certain talents or gifts because you're a woman and you can't because you're a man. It's like, but there are like sacred things that are like, this is man, this is woman. We both need each other. We complement each other. We fill in the gaps and we become one, essentially.
I mean, there's a reason why we are the rib of Adam, right? We're a helper. We nurture. Like, our natural instinct is to nurture and help. Yeah. Right?
Now, I'm going to probably butcher this too, but there's people who can say it much more eloquently, I think, than I can. But that phrase in the Bible that says that you're a helper, some people take it and they look at it as like, oh, you're second to because you're the helper or whatever. But really, when you break it down and you like look up the Greek and the real words in there, it's really saying that you're a person who's there as a partner to do the things this person can't even do. Like, as this helper, you're completing them. Yes. They're empty, unfulfilled, and incapable of reaching their potential because you're the unlock. You're the key. You actually are. And it's this thing that's like, it's actually so important because it's like the batteries in a battery operated thing. It could do all this great stuff, but if you don't have a battery in there, it doesn't even work.
Well, I want to preface that, no person can complete you. God is of all and be all, but there is a reason why we're designed the way we are, because women will have more anxiety doing, like, I have more anxiety than I've ever had being in a man's role. But when I'm at home cooking and stuff, I like feel like my gray hairs are going away. Like, everything is just happy when I'm in my element of like cleaning and cooking and, taking care of children. I don't feel like it's hard for me. But when I'm doing something that's a task that I'm not built to do, it's like, of course I have anxiety. Of course I'm stressed out all the time. Of course I have to spend longer hours doing it because I'm not doing what I'm naturally built to do.
So do you think that in you were running your own company and doing all these things, right? So you were the head of that whole project. Yeah. But let's take it to, like, in today's society, you got a husband and a wife and they both have a need to work, to provide, to work together and to do that stuff. Do you feel like there's a middle ground where you can be not I'm the pants wearing and I'm, whatever you want to call that. But yeah, you could be in the workforce and you can be out there and you can do that and you can still have the be that woman, the support, the complement, the helper, that stuff, and be able to accomplish all this without having to be one income, all of that kind of stuff.
The society we live in is unfortunate that we have to have two incomes, right? That we have to come to a point where women, and we all wanted this, right? I'm not denying that we didn't want this. We chose to decide, yes, I want to work just as much as my man does, and I'm really curious, if we never decided that, what would it be right now societally? We wouldn't be thinking about two incomes because we would only be like, no, that's my job, right? And so, but we're in this predicament that we have put ourselves in, and sorry, women, but we did sign up for this. We all did. That we want to partake in that. So I don't think it's like, I don't think it's something that was suggested. It was just happened where we both our free will agreed that we're going to have two incomes. Because if we didn't have the mindset that there was two incomes coming in, we'd all figure it out, right?
Yeah.
But now we are groomed to believe that like I can't exist in this house without you doing it too.
Yeah, I mean, you have the combination of that plus all of these years of what you're talking about changes the way like jobs pay and salaries and like all these things have evolved through that. You could probably sprinkle in some of the good, some of the bad, some of the in between, and a lot of it that I don't even know how to analyze. But we are in a place, and I think there can be different strokes for different folks and ways of going about it. But the pure identity that there's like husband, wife, designed to the core differently, that they complement each other. And it's, I don't know, it's cool to see a transformation and where you came from one place to another. I've known a few women in our lives, friends and previous friends, acquaintances that are hardcore like that. And it just seems like they're never happy ever because they're hardcore. Like, I don't need men. And I don't understand it, and I am a man, so I'm a little bit careful to be like, well, I can't see it how you see it, but I just think core to the design, it's okay, we're different. We are different. Yeah,
and there's nothing to knock on our beautiful skill sets or our design of different things that God's given us, right? Like, God's giving me creativity and all these things. And I'm so thankful for that. You know, it doesn't mean that I have to show up as a man though.
No,
you know, I can paint with my kids and I can story tell with them. And like, there's just different ways of things that I used to do that I think differently now of how those skill sets can be used.
Yeah, for sure. Either way, the skill sets are there and they're going to provide value.
Exactly. Yeah.
So would you say if there's anything left to say on here to the audience, anyone listening, like, is there anything you want to leave people with that you just say, like, piece of advice or a way to look at things that you haven't mentioned that you want to make sure we talk about?
I feel like we kind of covered a lot of things.
We did.
I just want, at the end of the day, for people to know that the person that's speaking right now was not always like this. And I am coming from an experience of both sides of the fence. This is not just like I grew up thinking this way. I was definitely both sides of the fence, like the most opposite pendulum you can think of. And now I'm on this side and I'm coming from experience. I'm not saying things just to say things, and I do not like talking about things I don't know. So what we've chatted about is human experience, and personally, from where I've seen darkness to lightness is all because of Christ. And I don't know how else to explain it. I can't explain it except for that. Like, this is not because of me. And I want people to know that I don't know this person, this version of me is not without my Savior. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
I would have never gotten to this point.
That's
ever.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, if you're searching, then I think the advice is to open your heart up and to go try to prove it wrong and see if you can, and you probably won't.
And this is why the saying of we're all lost until we're found, I was lost. And nothing satisfied my soul more than Christ.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, Lindsey, before we wrap up, can I pray for you?
Yes, I would love that. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Lord, I thank you again for an opportunity each week to get behind the mic and to have beautiful conversations with people. And it's just amazing how you continue to lead people into this seat behind the mic who have a story to tell that involves you. And I want to keep it going that way. But I pray for Lindsey that as she continues on in this journey and she uses her gifts and her talents, that God, you grab the brush and you paint for her as you did with this painting you're making, but metaphorically throughout her life. And I know that a lot of people will find what they're looking for, through her as a vessel. And I just pray that you bless her and keep opening those doors. And ultimately that we just continue to find ways to glorify you, put you first. And thank you so much. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. That was really sweet.
You're welcome.
Great prayer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
So I have one more question for you.
Yeah.
Offline.
Yeah.
Who's one person that you would recommend or introduce me to